The new mystery virus in China. It's adapting and mutating, and no known drug works against it. This came out January 21st, 2020. And that is something that is starting to send alarms across the globe. And you just can't help but wonder whether or not this is another manufactured virus. We know they've had the outbreak of measles, talking about bringing back all these different vaccines. Says here global health officials are racing to contain the outbreak of the mysterious new coronavirus before it starts spreading wildly out of control all over the planet. Unfortunately, they may be already too late, it says. The virus has now spread to at least 7 other countries outside of China, and a whole lot of people are starting to panic. We are being told that early indications that you may have been infected include respiratory symptoms, fever, cough, shortness of breath, breathing difficulties, but those symptoms could also simply mean that you have caught a common cold or the flu. And there is going to be a lot of confusion out there. Well, I still believe that there are cures for it. They just don't want to tell you. They're going to lie about all that. But this article here, Walking Times, mandatory flu vaccine coming your way, caught our attention as well. And this is back in November, but watch what they say here. While most states' legislation targeting vaccination mandates have focused on measles, what trends to get lost in the debate is that these mandatory, let me make that big. I see that you guys probably don't see that at all on your screen. Anyway, they're saying the mandatory vaccination laws are likely to be extended to all vaccines licensed and recommended by federal law and government in the future. I'll make it a little bigger there. Maybe that way you'll be able to see it good. Get rid of that. Anyway, it goes on to say, in other words, measles outbreaks and fear-mongering by exaggerated disease risk and minimizing vaccine risk are being cleverly used to create propaganda to eliminate the legal right to make vaccine choices across the board. As just one example in the Trojan horse of measles, right? And a little bit more I highlighted in the article as well, or at least I thought I did. I guess I didn't. But anyway, the whole point is there is definitely coming mandatory vaccines. If you remember, we've shared this over time. We had one lady that we spoke to about this that left the United States. She said because she worked under Ronald Reagan, and she spoke about how that this was coming to the United States. It would go to a mandatory vaccination program. And in the beginning, if you did not comply with it, you would, you wouldn't be allowed to travel. You wouldn't be able to fly. You wouldn't be able to travel by train, which that's mainly Europeans and other parts of the world as well. No travel would work for you whatsoever. It'd be like a quarantine for you if you don't take these mandatory vaccinations. And of course, the thing is just some of the dangers that are inside of vaccines. If you ever look to see what's in there, it will shock you to the core. Also, protests continue in Beirut after Lebanon forms a new Hezbollah-approved government. Wow, Hezbollah government there, right? And says even after the formation of a new government in Lebanon, heated demonstrations in the streets of Beirut show no signs of slowing down, with protesters continuing to trade blows with security forces in an on and off clashes. The ongoing arrest comes as a new government was announced on Tuesday following the resignation of Prime Minister Saad Hariri and amid the worst economic crisis Lebanon has faced in decades. An agreement reached between Hezbollah and its allies in the parliament made Hassan Diab the new prime minister and created a fresh cabinet consisting of 20 members. I was told back when this all began, before it ever made public news, that this was exactly what the Israelis wanted to see happen. They wanted to see the collapse of Lebanon. And I was even told then by the daughter of the foreign minister of Lebanon that even though she was a Christian, her family were Christians, that Hezbollah were the only group that had stopped the Israelis from overtaking the country. Well, that's why we're seeing the unrest over the Hezbollah-backed government, because it's still not what the United States and what Israel wants. It's not part of the New World Agenda initiative. So therefore, they are going to continue to rally to fight to cause all the mayhem inside of the country until they get their way. It's just the way it's going to be. And don't forget, that's also one of the nations that General Wesley Clark said had to be taken down. One of the 7 nations in 5 years. I thought I'd share that with you there. Ex-CIA lawyer states here the Soleimani hit was a homicide under U.S. criminal law. And wanted to share that information with you as well. I thought it was kind of interesting to see this, that an attorney actually cites from U.S. Legal code that the killing of Soleimani was actually a crime. It says in bragging that he ordered a successful hit on Iranian Major General Qasem Soleimani, President Trump has admitted to killing a senior government official of a foreign state, Iran, which he was traveling in another sovereign state, Iraq. On its face, his conduct and intent satisfy the elements of premeditated murder under Section 116 of Title 18 of the United States Criminal Code. Murder or manslaughter or foreign officials of official guests or intentionally protected persons. We can and must debate, and many are whether the killing was an assassination or a violation of international norms. But neither of those charges has been codified by the Congress into criminal code, and thus they have no teeth. The assassination ban is found in an executive order, and a president is not bound by it, for it is international norms, including the adherence to long-standing principles of the ethics of just war, while ignoring norms as Trump calling card, and his supporters love him for it. But he goes on to say the provisions of the United States Criminal Code, however, bind all persons, including presidents. They cannot be waived, and they have very sharp teeth. By ordering the drone attack killing General Soleimani, it appears that Trump committed a homicide under federal law. But as we know, you know, that'll never, ever be enforced. Going into some other things that are going on, let's go right over here. I brought this up because I just thought it was interesting. The Jerusalem Post actually put out this article here called Senate Republicans Are Trump's Kool-Aid Soldiers. Now, Israelis seem to be almost unanimously pro-Trump. So for the Jerusalem Post to put this article out really, really shocked me. All right, but I wanted you to see this part right here of the article. It says, today's beverage of choice in the Senate Republican cloak is Trump Kool-Aid in Trump Town. You know, this really shocked me for the Jerusalem Post to actually write an article like this. The faithful are expected to show their loyalty to the cult leader by swallowing his deceitful beverage whole. Even before the impeachment trial of Donald Trump began, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell announced he had no intention of honoring his solemn oath of impartial justice. Instead, he intended to coordinate closely with the White House. You know, Lindsey Graham also. We have Lindsey Graham here. He says here in similar vein, Lindsey Graham, Trump's part-time caddy, declared, I'm not trying to be a fair juror here. Just over 4 years ago, he called Trump a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot who was unfit for office. Then Trump was elected and Graham drank the Kool-Aid hoping to be relevant. It's just kind of weird. I mean, that's why I wanted to bring it up. I couldn't believe the Jerusalem Post would actually come against the President of the United States. Anyway, foreign policy, more U.S. troops treated for concussion symptoms as Trump downplays headaches. That's what he just calls it there. Top U.S. general confirmed that additional service members are being treated for concussions-like symptoms after Iran's missile strike on the military base in Iraq earlier this month, even as President Donald Trump downplayed the injuries as headaches. Trump on Wednesday seemed to brush off the injuries sustained by U.S. troops after Iran's January the 8th attack, saying at a news conference in Davos, Switzerland, that he did not consider them to be very serious. We'll have to kind of wait till this all comes out. I know there were a lot of people, including the Iranian government, that said that there were casualties in this, that the United States suffered 80 deaths and over 200 and something wounded that were being treated in other areas around Iraq, including that of Kuwait and Israel. But no evidence that I had seen has actually surfaced for this, other than now we're seeing that in the teens, they call it, there have been, less than 20 head trauma victims of this particular attack, which makes you wonder how extensive are those wounds, and is it being swept under the rug? I know that during the Desert Storm, there were many more wounded and casualties in Desert Storm than it was ever made known to the public. But the reason that is because they always want to make it look like that we are the invincible army, that we're bulletproof and nothing happens to our soldiers. But all you had to do is know some of the people there, and of course I did, and hear the stories of what was actually going on the ground there, and the wounded was enormous number that were coming in on the ships out there. Germany. We're getting word here that exclusive intel report warns U.S. troops in Germany face possible imminent threat of attack. This is something that is being watched very carefully there. This says U.S. 66 Military Intelligence Brigade received what was described as a third-party information stating there was a possible imminent attack against U.S. soldiers located at either Tower Barracks in Grafenwohr or Tower Barracks in Dülmen. Exact locations, date, and time unknown. Newsweek reviewed the information marked unclassified from a senior U.S. intelligence official. But anyway, it says the source of the information stated that the attack would be carried out by an unknown extremist currently located in Germany near an unknown military base. The report continued the unknown Jordanian was described as a loyalist to the Jordanian Giglet and recently advocated killing U.S. soldiers in Germany. Now, I can tell you from experience living in East Europe and, of course, frequenting Germany, there have been entire towns that have been overtaken by the different Muslims that have come into to Europe. And I can also tell you for a fact, most of those towns fly the Turkish flag. So when they say Jordanian, I would question whether or not it was Jordanians or not. I do know there were a lot of Syrians that came in during fleeing from the war, but there were many, many Turks as well that came in. Like I said, the Turkish flag flies in many little communities, and some of those communities the people had to completely move out of because of their fear for their lives, of all the refugees that were living in those cities. Not counting all the makeshift camps all throughout Germany and other places such as France, etc. We've been to a lot of those places there, have seen those. The conditions that these people live under are just really appalling, and it ended up being a humanitarian crisis in itself of what happened. But Germany was offering money incentives to come there. So all this was really kind of strange, and I've always believed that it was a setup for being able to thin out the German population and destroy the nationalism of Germany in the not so distant future. Anyway, I'm Stephen DeNoon. You're listening to Israeli News Live. If you'd like, visit our website, IsraeliNewsLive.org. And by the way, if you happen to be there, if you are buying tickets for the conference, we are seeing there are issues. People are ordering tickets and they're not getting them. The ticket company has already contacted me about this. They're going to issue those tickets regardless because we see that they did go through on their payments. And I would say if you're buying your tickets for the conference there, that conference is right here, February the 8th, 2020. Order it only once. Don't try to reorder it. If there's been anybody that actually ordered it multiple times and you ended up being charged multiple times, that money will be refunded to you. I have to find out from the ticket company which way that went. It looks like everybody just ended up only paying once, but I need to be sure of that. Because the way they sent me their list, it looked like people had been paying multiple times, but on our side, it looked like we only received it in a singular. So, but anyway, so if you do click on it, you order your ticket, but you don't get anything as of yet, don't reorder it. Just leave it like it is. Just give us a day or two. We'll get it all worked out. Make sure everybody gets their tickets. And if for some reason your payment did not go through, we will let you know that as well. We're able to see everybody, your email addresses, everything on there. I just want to get back with the ticket company and make sure they get that glitch in their system resolved, because on our end, we didn't have a glitch. So we're trying to get that all worked out. I did go back through the entire process again. Everything was done right. So we're just trying to figure out what to do to make sure everybody gets a ticket, even if we have to do it all manually. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you, moderators, for being here with us. Again, we greet our two new moderators. I don't know if they're in tonight or not, but we thank you for joining on and helping us out with this tedious work of moderating, especially when we get a lot of viewers. We had I think one night we had almost 8,000 people live here on the broadcast. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you want to support the broadcast, don't forget you can do so right on our website, Israeli News Live. Also, our address is there as well. Good evening.